Hakeem Olufemi Gbajabiamila. God bless you all. Whosoever raises arms against our country is served the full measure of justice.
As House organizes special summit, stakeholders call for decisive action to stem the tide of insecurity.
The recovery account should be a dwelling account.
And lawmakers frown at unbudgeted withdrawals from looted funds by the executive. It's good to be with you again on a fresh package of House Ticket, your weekly window into the legislative activities of the House of Representatives, Federal Republic of Nigeria. Last week, the House was on a short recess from plenary to convene a special security summit, which held from Wednesday 26th to Friday 29th May 2021. The summit forms part of our report in this package, alongside other committee activities from the committee rooms. Some of the committees in focus include Ad hoc Committee on Recovery of Nigeria's Assets, Host Communities, and the Committee on Health. Let's meet again after this short timeout for the full program. Please stay tuned.
If we set our minds right, embrace each other in love and brotherhood, we will come through these troubling times. We will survive, we will recover, and then we will thrive. One nation under God, free, peaceful, and prosperous.
Although the Security Summit took place behind closed doors, during the opening ceremony on Wednesday, the 26th of May 2021, the Ninth House of Representatives reiterated the dire need to achieve lasting peace and prosperity of Nigeria by confronting the reality that previous and current approaches to addressing the challenges of insecurity have not yielded the desired results. According to the Speaker, Right Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, hard choices need to be made. The details of the Security Summit are contained in this first segment, plus lawmakers' engagement with government agencies over the status of recovered loot dating back to 2002. The report was compiled and presented from our studios.
At the opening of the summit, Wednesday the 26th of May 2021, a minute silence was observed to honor the passing away of the former Chief of Army Staff, alongside those who lost their lives in the air mishap of Friday the 21st of May 2021.
May their souls rest in peace. Thank you.
During speeches at the opening ceremony, there were calls for action and for walking the talk. The President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari, who was represented by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, lauded the initiative of the Ninth House.
This summit will be held behind closed doors to allow for frank conversations around the four thematic areas of 1. Local and community level security options and solutions. 2. Strategic kinetic national security solutions. 3. Global perspective to insecurity and international factors in national security. And lastly, non-military security options and solutions. I wish to propose that you also consider the questions of politics and law, history and economics that are central to our national identity and yet too often constitute the root causes of our national security challenges.
The Senate President, Ahmad Lawal, on his part, reiterated the need for more budgetary allocations for security and the critical support of the executive in coming together with the legislature to address the menace of insecurity in Nigeria. He noted that a previous summit on security by the 8th House was not implemented by the executive, calling on the executive to implement the recommendations of the summit.
As parliamentarians, those who approve the funding, we must understand how these procurement processes are undertaken. If the processes require that we change the way we do them because of inefficiencies, we should go ahead and do so. Because it's not enough to just put in more resources, but how the resources are deployed with the economy, with the prudence and efficiency.
For the speaker, the convener of the summit, he emphasized that national security can only be achieved by setting aside ethno-religious differences and other factors that often divide Nigerians. And to the security agencies of the country, the speaker called for a united and coordinated security approach to contain attacks from insurgents, bandits, kidnappers, and other criminal elements.
Our deliberations in this summit and the recommendations that emerge therefrom will reflect all the factors that have precipitated our present circumstances, including issues of economic fairness, the allocation of state resources, the deficiencies of our criminal justice system, and the role of critical national institutions such as the National Assembly, the judiciary, and the state and local governments.
Other speakers at the event were the Chief of Defense Staff, Drug Law Enforcement Agency, and royal fathers alike. Ethnic and religious profiling was discouraged, just as an honest and active involvement of youth in matters of governance, active fight against drug abuse were touted as some of the ways forward in seeking solutions to the problem of insecurity.
It's my assertion to the fact that peace is very expensive comes very handy. Inconveniences that we find when security agencies implement certain policies and guidelines. Sometimes it's not convenient for the public, it's not convenient for the citizens. These inconveniences, of course, are part and parcel of the cost for peace. That every one of us as Nigerians, we have a part to play in contributing to this cost for peace.
Because the more we sit here and talk, the more time we waste in taking real actions. Because we know the problems. I'm not going to say anything here that I have not said in the last 7 years. But it's much more important to implement what we have talked about. We can't just continue talking, and we don't implement. I bet you can come back 3 or 4 months later for another security summit. We will discuss the same things we are going to discuss today. Because we don't implement.
Crime neither knows any political party, nor the rich or the poor. Crime and insecurity love nobody. Insecurity, as I said, is a monster that must be confronted head on. It is nobody's friend, but rather an enemy to all. The earlier we fight it together, the better it will be for all of us. Our expected roles at all times in finding a lasting solution.
The collapse of local government. It has collapsed. Let's be very truthful to ourselves. It has completely collapsed because that's the only arm of government that is, number one, the foundation of this country. You don't have any other foundation. We are only building on a castle that has been completely broken down. That is the foundation that will gather the most active age bracket for you in this country. Funded. You don't even reference them for anything. You don't even care about their administration. Where did we get it wrong in this country? We all have faults. All of us here. If we keep talking every time, we will not get any result. It's getting worse. They are getting more emboldened. They are now very bold and they are ready to face anybody because they are hungry and they are angry.
At the end of the special summit on Saturday, 29th of May 2021, the House promised to submit its report and recommendations to the executive arm of government for prompt implementation. Speaker Femi Gbajabiamila, in closing the summit, thanked stakeholders for the over 1,000 submissions, describing them as qualitative, unprecedented, and phenomenal. The speaker also said stakeholders have in their discussions rekindled hope that Nigeria and Nigerians are capable of coming together for the common good. For the ad hoc committee on the assessment and status of all recovered loot, the lawmakers engaged a number of federal government personnel heading key agencies that deal with all recovered loots of Nigeria, both movable and immovable assets meant for effective and efficient management and utilization. About 3 days sitting of the investigative panel was dedicated to the interactions with the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC) due to its critical mandate of oversighting financial corruption cases. In that regard, lawmakers were interested in knowing what has accrued to the government and the utilization of the funds.
The issue of drawings from recovery account,
Yes, sir.
how do you see it? The Accountant General said that, even the minister said, it is the recovery account shouldn't be a drawing account. The only drawing you see from recovery account is movement from that account direct to the consolidated account. But like the chairman just said a few hours ago, that even monies that are not recovery do go there, which is wrong. So what step have you taken to change that narrative?
Operations account were also being put in that recovery account. That was why you were able to see some certain drawings for some certain activities of EFCC. But they are strictly restricted to the inflows into that account, and that is what is being moved out. The recoveries in that recovery account are being given to the victims as at when due, when it comes to individual victims, corporate entities, etc. We have the records to show, the drawings from there, as well as, of course, if it is to the government, to the interim for future account, and then, of course, to the final for future account.
The lawmakers also found it illegal that the Accountant General borrowed 20 billion naira amongst other monies disbursed out of the recovery account, just as the committee also noticed that funds from the recovery account are also used to pay salary advance to agencies of government. This the lawmakers frowned at for being in violation of financial laws and regulations, as no recourse to budgeting process by the National Assembly on the withdrawals are made.
Nigerians are curious to know about what is regarded as the NIA fund. Where is this money? The NIA recovery.
So as it is today, is with the federal government of Nigeria.
That's in the forfeiture account or in another account?
No, in the final forfeiture account, I don't know precisely where the funds are, whether we have moved it to the consolidated revenue funds. But what I do know, Mr. Chairman, is that the monies are in an account with the Central Bank of Nigeria. What I don't know whether it has been transferred to consolidated
I'm
revenue
going to pass you a document,
yeah.
And I want you to look at item number 16 there and find out if it's actually a proper destination.
Okay, I've seen it.
Is that supposed to be the destination?
No, these are just summaries of recovery.
No, item number 16.
Yes.
Where you see what you wrote at item number 16, is where it is now.
Okay.
Where you put beneficiary.
Okay. Well, I don't know, honestly. I have to verify this and come back to you. Yes.
And the reason I'm drawing to your attention to all this is,
but the last column,
you need to be looking at documents.
Mr. Chairman, if I can tell you, the last column there,
yeah,
you can see the beneficiary of it.
That's what I say. Should that be the beneficiary?
Yeah, that is the beneficiary. Whether or not this second to the last column is where it's supposed to be is another thing. But ultimately, the beneficiary is the federal government.
Okay, so you need to
we need
rearrange that document.
Yes.
So that because where we have documents that are conflicting with facts,
yes,
it undermines even the EFCC.
Certainly.
Meanwhile, at the particular sitting of the committee, through more questioning, the lawmakers were informed that the status and whereabouts of the recovered loots of former Petroleum Minister, Mrs. Desani Alison Madeke, are still in the custody of the EFCC after forfeiture. The value stands at an estimated amount of 14 billion naira and $80 million for landed property, cash and jewelries respectively. Also, lawmakers frowned at the long-duration forfeited assets take for them to be turned into useful means for the federal government.
Properties
somewhere on Abacha Road in Port Harcourt were seized more than 15 years ago. Those properties were seized by EFCC. I think the people that were involved were convicted, and some of them have actually served their jail terms and are out. Because of the fact that those properties have been left there, I understand that one or two of those that were convicted and have come out of prison are trying to find ways to recover those properties. Now, Chairman, part of the reason why this committee was set was to hope we can find a way of managing such things. In your opinion, what do you think is the best way to deal with? I don't know if you know those properties. There are some high-rise buildings somewhere on off Abacha Road in Port Harcourt. Moody's case, Union Bank, blah, blah, blah. Do you have an advice for this committee going forward on how to manage such things? Because that is total waste.
Primary solution to this problem is to deal with these issues on case-by-case basis. As the court is making pronouncement, we ought to have taken steps to dispose of these assets immediately and do what we have to do by restituting the victims of these crimes. And I want to assure this committee that going forward, that is what the EFCC stands for, and that is what we are going to do, God willing, to ensure that these cases are being dealt with on case-by-case basis.
I'm going to take time out to probably set up a subcommittee, a technical committee, because we want to physically take a look at some of these items to know their state. The reason is this. If you have an asset and it's worth 14 billion, and some of them could be deteriorating assets, we need to be sure that they're still in such a fit and proper state, or, if we keep keeping them, they're going to go.
Other government personnel that appeared before the committee during the week-long investigations included the Attorney General of the Federation, Accountant General, Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, the Independent Corrupt Practices Commission, ICPC, the National Security Agency, NSA, Customs, amongst others.
Thanks for still being there. And if you're just tuning in, the program is House Ticket, a weekly update of activities of lawmakers from the House of Representatives, Federal Republic of Nigeria. In the first segment of the program, we brought you the 9th House engagement with the Chief of Defense Staff, Royal Fathers, and other critical stakeholders on matters of national security in a summit organized by the House of Representatives. We also brought you findings of an ad hoc committee set up to investigate the status of recovered loot. This segment starts with a report of the sitting by the Committee on Host Communities as mandated by the House to investigate the budgetary approvals for Department for Petroleum Resources DPR, National Petroleum Investment Management Services NAPIMS and NAPEX on corporate social responsibility CSRs between 2019 and 2021.
We desire to invite you today as part of the ongoing consultations and search for solutions to the myriad of challenges besetting the oil communities of the Niger Delta region and indeed other host communities in Nigeria. These challenges have been substantially documented. However, resolution of the challenges has remained a burden that must be discharged by all of us, including the state and non-state actors.
The investigation by the committee spanned over 2 weeks. On ground for discussions on the 24th of May 2021 were a number of international oil companies, IOCs, such as Shell, Ajib, Total, and Chevron. In the interactive session that followed, the lawmakers demanded from the oil companies certificates of implementation by the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, and NAPIMS, as well as the GMOU agreement as approved by NAPIMS and NNPC in the discharge of social responsibility projects in the host communities.
GMOU agreements expired 2016, 2017 respectively. What has been the challenges that prompted your inability to, considering that you have community development projects annually.
Why they've not been renewed is because of community, what we call several groups within the communities that are not able to come together and nominate a team that could do it. There are factions and there are litigations in court, sometimes 3, 4, 5 litigations. I give very clear examples. The Mbesularu one in Port Harcourt, there's been 2 main factions and there are litigations and court cases. So we had to, a few months ago, bring them together on our own initiative to settle them first, get them withdraw the cases, and we've concluded that now.
Try as much as possible to furnish us with the type of factories that you claim to have built to the host communities. What do they produce? Their products, do they have direct bearings to the host community, to the lives of the host communities? Because that will help us to identify them easily.
In this situation where between 2016, 2017 to 2021, agreements have not been entered into, what happens to the accruing funds within this period of dispute?
So when communities bicker and fight together, they lose out until there is something that we can work with. We can budget. Even NAPIMS cannot, will be, if they set an audit, if they are audited, they will not also pass because we work based on what has been agreed with the communities, agreements are entered. So where they let us, we use our SCSR department to complete the projects. Where they don't create the atmosphere for us to intervene, under such circumstances, we wait until the MOU is renewed.
While taking the submission from Shell Petroleum Development Company of Nigeria Limited, lawmakers were not impressed by the scarce information provided.
We're in the electronic age, and if you couldn't give us the hard copies, you also have the opportunity to give us the soft copies. You have not made any attempt whatsoever. Part of the problem we have in the industry today, Shell bears a good portion of it. And it appears that you don't think about the host communities, because if you do, you will do all these things, because it's going to help us to engage the host communities, which in the long run will be in your own interest.
The committee raised the need for a sense of responsibility by Shell on CSRs.
I noticed you repeatedly in your letter saying that your social investment scheme is a voluntary responsibility. And you've said it repeatedly in your letter. But I think it's beyond voluntary. I think responsibly, it is almost mandatory. But when you tend to educate us here, well, I feel strongly about that.
As agreed by the members of the committee, Shell Petroleum Limited was given time to come back in 2 weeks with the adequate information needed by the committee. At an earlier sitting being Wednesday, the 19th of May 2021, several other local companies dealing in oil exploration, production, distribution, amongst other contracts within the host communities, were also questioned on a number of issues.
From your 4th project to the 5th, to the 6th, to the 7th, to the 8th, to the 9th, okay, to the 11th, all of these projects are very far from your area of operation. Out of the about 15 projects you have here, like 8 to the 9th are in the far north. The proposed hospital, children's hospital you have, is in Daura. How do you relate that to your care for the host community?
We had a directive under the PCNI, Presidential Northeast Initiative, to support. So part of that engagement, which was also not only by our decision, but we're in a JV. We also have a JV, the joint venture. In the joint venture, we have 40%. The NNPC had 60%. You cannot suggest to us that you have maybe 100 million and you keep 1 million in the community where you operate, and you cut away 99 million to other communities. What if they get to understand that?
That is not what it is.
Do you understand?
That is not what it is.
And the people are just there dying, and you are here telling us all kinds of stories.
The lawmakers had asked for details of some projects from the oil companies, while asking companies that had their chief accounting officers absent at the hearing to turn back. This included Chevron Nigeria Limited, that had sent in a manager to represent the head of the company, and in addition had presented a voluminous document which need more copies for the lawmakers to peruse.
All projects you have done in your host communities must be documented to inform us of the location, the type of project, the level of completion, and how much money was spent in executing those projects.
House Ticket will continue to bring you details of the investigation till its logical conclusion. A last report is from the House Committee on Health Institutions, which brought together stakeholders to deliberate on two bills, namely a bill for an act to establish the National Agency for Sickle Cell Disease and Other Heritable Blood Disorder Prevention and Treatment for the treatment, prevention, control, management and research of sickle cell disease and other heritable blood disorder in Nigeria and for related matters. And a bill for an act to establish the Federal Medical Center Hong, Adamawa State, and for other related matters. The House, during the public hearing, re-emphasized its commitment to the people of Nigeria to improve access to healthcare services through increased funding, healthcare research, mechanisms for training and providing for healthcare professionals, amongst other things, as captured in its legislative agenda. Aside that, the lawmakers had also pointed out that the COVID-19 pandemic has brought out the need to pay more attention to the health system so that it can absorb the shocks of future outbreaks. The sponsors of the bill spoke on the idea behind them. For the Federal Medical Center Establishment Bill Hong, Adamawa State, the sponsor, lawmaker Buba Yakub, said when the bill is successful, it will provide immediate healthcare services to the over 2 million population stretching to other communities outside Hong. For the Sickle Cell Disease Agency bill, the sponsor of the bill noted that the way forward in managing the crisis is to set up a dedicated institution or department to facilitate research, counseling and provision of intervention medication as obtained in many foreign countries. This is especially as Nigeria has the largest concentration of sickle cell disease in the world, with about 100,000 babies dying annually from the disease. Participants at the public hearing included the Ministry of Health, other medical professionals and bodies, as well as community leaders from Adamawa State. The Ministry of Health opposed the two bills, citing proliferation of agencies in the health sector, which leads to duplication of functions. On the federal medical centers being proposed, the ministry is of the opinion that rather than establishment of federal medical centers all around the country, which may lead to proliferation, state governments should consider adopting one of their general hospitals in each local government area that should be refurbished and equipped to handle specialized fields in internal medicine, pediatrics, surgery, obstetrics, and gynecology. The ministry assures of its support by way of providing needed specialist consultants to states from its tertiary health institutions. Hope you've been updated on the workings of the House of Representatives in recent times. Let us meet again on this station for more enlightenment on the role of the Legislature, Federal Republic of Nigeria. Stay safe and have a lovely time ahead.